Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the HR Exchange Network. If you're just joining us, you missed out on a great fireside chat this morning with QBE. However, you can watch that session on demand for up to a month after the event. So you will receive an email with a URL where you can download that session. But just want to give you a quick reminder of what you can see there on your screen. It's super toggle friendly. So before we get underway for our next session of the day, you have got Dean's bio and LinkedIn profile there on the right hand side of your screen. Connect with Dean on LinkedIn, carry the conversation on after today's session so we can drive momentum and discussion forward. You'll also see the resource center. Now feel free to download any of those materials for future use. They're there for your benefit, so do take advantage of that opportunity. And you'll also see the Q&A widget there on the left hand side of your screen. Feel free to drop any questions that you do have for Dean into that box. Don't forget to hit submit, and I'll get round to asking Dean those questions at the end. So we've got a presentation today with Dean, and so I just want to cover off what we'll be covering. So creating a personalised and collaborative learning at scale approach. We're delighted to be joined by Dean Saunders, Vice President of Product Development at Open LMS. Dean, thanks very much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm very, very well, I've got to say. Getting out of lockdown in Australia here soon on Friday, so I'm very excited to be chatting with this fine crowd, even though I can't see you. I'm sure you're all lovely looking.
So Dean, just before we kick off, I know we want to drive maximum engagement with the audience today. So firstly, let's give the audience a little bit of an understanding about yourself and your background, because I know you have a lot of experience. So before we turn to more poll engagement to get the audience involved, just a little bit about you.
Yeah, sure. So about me, I've been in the ed tech game, if you like, for 20 years, which when you say 20 years sounds like a long time now. It's like, I don't feel that old, but I guess I am getting older or wiser, as some people might say. But yeah, look, I've been around for a little while in ed tech all over the world, really, involved in a lot of different projects for various size and scale sort of organizations. In 2008, I founded a little company called eCreators, which has started up as a little old me, which was recently acquired, just on 13 years later, by the Learning Technologies Group out of the UK. So they saw some wonderful things in the things that we were doing in the higher education, in the corporate education space and higher education across APAC, and wanted a piece of that. So we obliged them. Look, I'm pretty passionate about learning, and you'll see that in some of the things that I talk about today. But I'm also passionate about barbecues. So I love cooking. I've got 8 barbecues. That may seem like a lot, but they do have their place. And I enjoy teaching others how to barbecue as well, too, in a collaborative way. So it's not just about the eating, but also about the process. So I hope some
but
of
not,
that...
not 8 barbecues running at once.
Never 8 at once. Sometimes 3 or 4 at once doing different things. But yeah, they all play their purpose. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for the intro, Dean. And you say little old me, but just for the audience's info, Dean has got over 20 years experience in the learning industry. So don't want to do him a disservice here. So let's draw on Dean's knowledge today. Before we do get underway with Dean's session, we just want to throw the ball over to you, the audience, before we get underway. And here's a poll for you. So feel free to vote now. And so, Dean, the first question I want us to reflect on is how many people in this audience do we think have engaged learners in their organisation? And so, audience, over to you. Have you, or are you unsure if you have, or you're not sure and you think there's room for improvement? Dean, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of organisations think they have an engaged audience. They may have a learning management system. They may have content which they think is wonderful. A lot of the time, that content is driven at it's a sort of a compulsory outcome versus a for-purpose outcome. And when I say for-purpose, aligned to skills and the like. But probably the question's more aimed at, are your learners, do you have a view that your learners are satisfied with the things, the digital education they receive inside their organisation? So when you think about that.
Let's have a look. Oh, okay. Interesting split there. So that, I would say that agrees with exactly what you said. So I like the fact the audience have been honest here and said they are not sure and that there are still room for improvement. So that's fantastic to see. You're in the right place for this session today. And then a second question to you, the audience vote now. Do you believe you have an effective content strategy for e-learning? Yes or no? And I think, Dean, when it comes to, say, this strategic element and where to start, this is the building blocks, isn't it, really, putting the pieces together of the jigsaw. So I'm hoping that the majority say no. What do you think?
Yeah. Look, again, the purpose of this one is it's always nice to train your employees, but you'll have no baseline for measuring performance and improvement if you aren't sort of tracking that skills development and tracking those certifications. So you're really seeing the impact of your education inside your organisation. So, so many organisations are reactive to learning. Oh, okay, we're getting a new product coming out. Quick, let's develop an e-learning course about how to sell motorhomes. It may not need to be that sometimes. It doesn't need to be an educational piece. Other times it does. But you need to have an end game in sight. All successful products, be they educational or otherwise, have an idea of where they want to be and what they want to focus on as an organisation.
Yeah, and I think that roadmap is so incredibly important. Once again, I'd say the audience are at that split and divided here. So now let's reflect. Over to you, Dean, for today's session.
Yeah, great. So this all rings true to me, and the results, that split result at the end there is fantastic. So it's good to sort of see that everybody's sort of thinking along the same sort of baselines. It's great to see that people have, in this last answer, sort of made some attempt at building that comprehensive e-learning strategy, and others not. There's room for improvement. So they're the exciting ones for me to work on. So we can sort of help you guys out with that. But in essence, I always start with the question: why do we even need learning? And a lot of organisations, I think, struggle with this as a part of their initial foray into education and to building out strategy. Generally, in my experience, the question you should ask yourself as an organisation is, do I even need learning? Is this actually the thing I'm designing? Is it designed to be an educational piece? Generally, there's three reasons. Three reasons. I had 4 fingers then, but 3. We'll hold up again. 3 reasons that you might develop online educational material. That's to introduce or improve a skill, to build awareness about something. It might be a new CRM coming into your organisation, or a new system, or a new policy or process, or to change behaviour. And in the instance of changing behaviour, you might have a workforce which is, it might be a sales workforce, for example, which is doing it this way over here and not having much success. So we want to change that behaviour and change the way that they interact with our customers to do it this way over here. So really being conscious of what's an informative piece, so something that is a nice to know, and what's an educational piece where, again, you're changing behaviour, building skills, or building enhanced awareness. So being aware of that before you really sort of get into it. Individuals are unique characters. As you know, you're an individual where at the moment, for example, we're in a group, but we're not collaborating as a group. So you obviously know the difference between the two, and we'll get into some of that as part of what we're talking about. But generally what individuals will do is they'll start over here on the left at their current level of performance. And we really want them to be over here on the right, at either theirs or a desired, or the organisation's desired level of performance. So in the middle, we have that competency gap. So where we want learners to be, and then from where they currently are. So generally, they'll take a running gap and they'll jump over this competency gap. And obviously inside that competency gap goes all of our trainings, all of our courses, all of our education, our knowledge. Now, this competency gap can be successful for some and unsuccessful for others. A lot of the time, learners will get just to the edge and stop. They won't actually take the leap. A lot of the time, they'll drop off, so they'll fall into the competency gap and never actually finish anything. And others will just excel. They're great at working alone, so they'll jump over that. The second part, and probably the part that I want to sort of talk more about today, is team-based or cohort-based, some people call it, or collaborative learning, which allows learners to essentially learn as groups. So while we speak of digital education, and I love digital education, I've built a very successful business on digital education, but there are other elements to it as well, too, such as using those digital tools, maybe even something like this one we're using now, to get teams together. And one of the differences you'll find in collaborative learning is the learning outcomes are generally better. A good example of that is you've probably all been sitting in a class before. Jenny over there has asked a question and you've gone to yourself, that's a great question. I'm really glad Jenny answered that question. So you'll take a note and the facilitator will perhaps get the right answer or throw the answer back to the group. A good facilitator will, and allow the group to come to their own conclusions. So it's important to use our digital platforms, if you like, to facilitate these types of conversations because they are a really effective way for us to learn. So obviously, I'd love to be asking you, looking you in the eye and having you, follow my pen around the room as I point at you and ask you these questions. But, obviously think about, do you actually use personalised learning in your workplace? Do you believe personalised learning can happen in a collaborative environment? And do you believe it's effective? It definitely can. In my experience, learners can thrive in a collaborative environment where they can hear objective thinking, they can question the facilitator, they can learn on the go and learn more through doing or through more practical application versus that sort of one-way push model. So our platforms are designed now to do that. And I want to get more into that now. Obviously, collaborative learning drives participation. So if I'm doing an e-learning course or if I'm attending a lecture, it's a different process than the one I might undertake than in a collaborative learning environment. And often especially in digital classrooms and the like, our facilitators are underskilled. So one of the things that we saw with the advent of COVID, for example, was teachers and some really, really good teachers. So I love teachers. So let me put that out there first of all. But they were unprepared in a lot of instances to be able to facilitate in an online world. So they lack those digital skills. So as a result of that, students are still suffering through all of the digital education and the like, or the virtual education that's being thrown at them. Another part of that is the tools being used. So everybody's talking about Zoom and GoToMeeting and BigBlueButton and all these other wonderful tools that exist out there. But obviously finding the right tools and standardizing on those tools, making sure those tools are user-friendly, making sure they have interactive elements where people can raise hands or share screens or collaborate in breakout rooms and those sorts of things. But importantly, giving that chance to sort of share group feedback as well too. So making sure that everybody's involved in the answer to the question or the destination where the learning needs to go. Here's a little bit of a graph here, and I've got some stats which lead to this as well too. It's one of those things you'll always see when you go along to these online webinars and the like is, I can say anything I want really. I can tell you that 75% of learners fail in digital education the first time, and everyone will just nod. Well, this is actually a real stat. So this sort of shows a visual graph, if you like, if we consider the amounts here or the length of the bars. But lectures, let's look at lectures. How many of you have sat in a lecture? Just put your virtual hand up at the moment. I can't see it, but I can imagine. Generally, the participation in a lot of university-style lectures is generally fairly low. You don't get much of a chance to perhaps ask questions or interact at length with the facilitator or the teacher in that instance. The second one is mastery learning. So a lot of people call it mastery, some more repetitive learning, where you get the chance to learn over and over and over again, iteratively until you get it right. But the most successful one, and certainly what we're finding these days, is individual tutoring, mentoring, and a combination of mastery learning. And that's where you get to put that learning really into practice. So you are together with a group of other learners, you get to look at the skill and practice the skill over and over again until you get the chance to get it right. But mentoring and tutoring is certainly becoming more and more prevalent in the workforce. Some interesting other stats I wanted to share with you. These stats are all from Google, in case you're wondering. So I'll put some of these down here as references too. People are currently viewing 500 million times a day content related to learning. So, I would be really surprised if someone here hadn't learned something off YouTube, probably in the last few weeks. There's been a 120% increase in the average daily views of videos for homeschooling, which presents an interesting little discovery in itself, in that, as I sort of said before, with teachers being somewhat unprepared, a lot of parents have sort of gone, okay, well, I'll just find that on YouTube and we'll do some of our own classes online. Funny enough, little fun stat there, a 260% increase in the daily views of people making sourdough, so making their own bread. I haven't done that. I'm trying to cut down on the bread, but interesting that it's happening. So obviously with the new dynamic in the world today, people are leaning towards YouTube for slightly different things too, which is great. Some other interesting stats I wanted to share with you, and they sort of relate. I won't go through all of these because you can watch these yourself, but 86% of US viewers, for example, saying that they use YouTube to learn new things. YouTube viewers use the platform to help with a problem they're having with their work, studies, or hobbies. It's not uncommonplace in the workplace for employees to obviously use it as a go-to mechanism to discover new knowledge and apply that knowledge to their roles inside the workforce. It's a start, there's no doubt about that. But we're obviously seeing our learning management systems and our digital learning platforms and our LXPs get more advanced. And one of those things that they're doing these days is obviously creating more self-moderated video as well, too, which I'll get to in a moment. Interesting enough, one of the big reasons that people don't engage as much with institutionally born content, so that's content that you might produce yourself at work or buy from a content repository or from somewhere else, is that there's no real recognition of that skill. Now, Udacity has this done really well. So they've introduced a little thing they call nano degrees, or little tiny degrees, chunks of knowledge where you actually take something away. So it's a recognized piece of content or a recognized course, which is compressed into a smaller amount of time, which allows you to take that skill and have that skill as something that's recognizable and transportable, but didn't take you 4 years at university to learn. Certainly, during COVID, we've seen an acceleration of organizations needing job-ready people with certain skill sets. So the added benefit there has been that employees can get access to recognizable skills to upskill them for cross-skilling or upskilling, or getting ready for jobs that they weren't perhaps ready for 18 months ago, but can be ready for quite quickly, and skills that are in demand for a lot of employers as well too. So certainly having that badge of recognition, if you like, is something that's important to a lot of employees. Now, many of you may have been in MOOCs, massive open online classes, which have been around for ages. The problem with MOOCs is they've never really been really good at aligning to a certain purpose. I mean, they've never been really good at closing the skills gap. They've never really addressed reaching desired levels of competency and the like. And there's good reason for that, which I want to explore. funny enough, with MOOCs and with, you could probably even extend this to big content repositories and the like, is more doesn't mean greater. So having access to 50,000 courses in your learning management system doesn't make great sense unless that translates into more engagement and therefore better learning outcomes. Now, as a society, we've addressed skills gaps before. We've had skills gaps. We go back as far as the industrial age. And upskilling people to go to the information age. We saw a massive leap then, and we're probably seeing a 2.0 of that now as certain manual labour skills and the like drop off. New gaps or new skills need to go into those competency gaps we spoke of earlier to fill that and prepare people for the new jobs and the new workforce of tomorrow. So while MOOCs had a go at this, they didn't necessarily succeed. How many people, I'll get another virtual show of hands that I can't see, to say this, but I'm too busy for learning. Well, this is just one of obviously a long line of excuses. And I think certainly in the last couple of years, we've seen people make place for this. I mean, certainly if I can speak to Australia, the general populace has sort of seen a shift in the way that people approach learning. And that has been, I guess, similar to the way people may have approached exercise in the past. Some people may have exercised once a week, maybe once a month, maybe 10 times a week. But it wasn't something that was perhaps part of their life. And we've certainly seen an increased trend in the way people are overcoming these barriers in workplace learning too. So things like being too busy or lack of community support, which is a really important one, I might add. So what happens after you do the course, or what happens after you complete the digital asset, that ongoing support, lack of technical skills, the learning not being relevant, and importantly, no reward. So we're seeing a lot of these barriers now overcome as we approach different philosophies to digital education. So sorry for this slide, it's a little bit small there in the text, but I think these slides will be made available to you later as well if you want to have a bit of a look at those. But what we're talking about here is MOOCs versus cohort-based courses, so cohort or collaborative-based courses. So again, typically a MOOC would be asynchronous, meaning it can be very sort of one way to the way you approach learning versus being interactive. So the cohort or the collaborative courses will give you that advantage. With timing, generally, again, MOOCs are sort of self-based, on-demand, whereas collaborative-based courses are more time-bound with start and end dates. But and I guess one of the big advantages to that is everybody can stay on track. So you don't have some learners getting ahead of others and the rest. We all learn together at the same sort of pace. Ideal topics for a MOOC would be knowledge transfer. So moving knowledge from one place to the other versus collaborative courses, which are better with things like skill building, giving you the opportunity to practice the skill, getting feedback live, and feedback not just from a facilitator, from other peers. Remember, as adult learners, we all have different life experiences that we can draw upon. So being in the one room where we can draw all that together is a huge advantage. People will always bring additional value to those types of groups. And of course, there is a value proposition as well too. So MOOCs can be often free or very, very low cost, whereas generally cohort courses will come at a higher cost there as well too, in some cases. But as you can see there, some of the advantages to cohort-based or collaborative learning over MOOCs. Here's a good little diagram as well, which demonstrates it. Again, I've got another link to that source there that you can look up and see further stats on this. But most courses you'll see will concentrate on the what we're learning and the why we're learning it, rather than how we actually do it. Whereas that should be flipped around. It really should be what I call the great big C, and you'll see the volume of that circle looks like a C, which is where that come from. Creative genius, I know. But these are what we call great courses. So great courses will concentrate more on the how. So how we actually do things. So we can find out what we're learning about, we can find out why we're here, and then find out how we do it. And obviously, by taking that approach, gives us that benefit of being able to obviously learn something really useful in time inside the allocated time blocks that we have, and to be in a greater success, a greater position to be able to achieve success and to jump into the real world, if you like, into real life applications and start applying and using that skill straight away. So a big benefit there for measuring the success of cohort-based courses. All right. Here we go. Sorry, I'm clicking on the wrong next button. A little bit of a hero statement here as well too. And that is the single most powerful approach to comprehension and retention is interactive processing. So that happens obviously when students engage and interact with partners or teammates over the content. And this is an interesting one. I attended a session back with Amazon a couple of years ago, and Amazon have a thing they call paired programming. So a good example is Amazon support team, actually. So when Amazon have a major outage, any of their sort of global workplaces of the like, they always do one thing, and that is to have a senior engineer on site who's completely competent and experienced at dealing with the various issues which are thrown their way. And then they'll have a junior engineer. He might be coming up through the ranks, and both of those individuals will attend to that issue together. There's a couple of reasons they do this. Again, that paired programming or paired support approach is because they both offer different perspectives on what the problem might be. So what they'll do is they'll look at the problem, they'll map out resolutions, and then they'll eventually work together to agree on a resolution. So obviously sometimes the junior will surprise the senior and come up with an issue. You know, the junior in their experience may have experienced the same problem, perhaps at another company or in another environment, whereas the senior can also share that knowledge with the junior as well too. So that's a really basic collaborative approach. We've even seen collaborative approaches recently with shared online learning content. So just because a product module, for example, is designed for one-on-one self-paced learning doesn't mean that two people together can't work through that piece of learning as well too. Now, obviously, there would be exceptions to that, things like compliance learning and those sorts of things. But certainly a collaborative approach right across the board can lead to better learning outcomes through healthy debate, through objective learning, and hold student attention much better than that sort of lecturer approach can. So you might be saying, okay, Dean, but you work for a digital education company. Yes, I do. And obviously when I speak of collaborative learning, our platforms are well and truly versed and designed to deliver collaborative learning. We have blogs and forums and wikis and things which are designed to obviously encourage that collaborative learning. But obviously digital learning has its place with all of this as well too. And what we're seeing a lot more of these days is one new thing we're about to launch in Open LMS is video-based learning. So video-based learning, so organizations can do more self-moderated education. So we know a lot of learners look at those 500 million views per day on YouTube, have a preference to watch a video piece. So we're involving more subject matter experts in helping to produce video pieces of learning based on things that are important inside the organization. And these things that fall into spaces like digital onboarding, welcome to the organization, product orientation, compliance, a whole range of things. Obviously, digital interaction is great as well too. So one of the reasons we design, or one of the reasons good digital education exists, is through scenario-based learning and adaptive learning. So making sure that employees are challenged with various scenarios and real-life scenarios that make sense, that the learning can adapt. So every time that they do that learning, they may be presented with a different path or a different obstacle or something different to keep them on their toes. It's not just a case of jumping in and absorbing all this information and then having a sort of summative assessment at the end. It's very different to that. Obviously, forums and discussion panels. So again, a great source of learning. You know, platforms like Reddit and the like have been incredibly successful by giving the public a platform to go and have those objective experiences, and for people to be able to share links to videos and other materials. I put in here as well too a little thing about people matching versus content matching. So what do I mean by that? The typical rule of thumb would say to us that you match content to the people. Say, right, here's a piece of content, everybody gets that same piece of content, versus pushing that the other way around. So when you talk about, again, collaborative learning, thinking about which people you might put into that collaborative learning piece. So if it was a help desk piece, for example, it doesn't necessarily have to have just help desk people in it. You might have a range of different people across the organisation, or a range of people with different learning styles that you might have assessed. And you do a lot of this stuff, obviously, during onboarding. And obviously, collaborative learning can maintain continuous connections as well, too. So there's big advantages to having people collaborate in one room on different topics, in that it can stretch to other areas of the business. So it might be other jobs within inside the business, or a chance to share different skill sets which can be uncovered in that collaborative environment. There's some really good stuff on the World Economic Forum as well too. So this is all globally available stuff, really good research on the skills taxonomy and the like. So I really encourage you to go along and have a look at some of that information that does exist, because it will change your way, I think, of thinking. Getting towards the end of my little topic today, I'm just conscious of my time being a little bit over, but I wanted to look at some of the things that we're sort of doing now in the learning space. So I've got BC here being before Corona, and then AD, so after disease, whenever we get some sort of control on this thing. So what we're sort of obviously seeing on the left is the stuff that we've been doing a lot of in the past, and what we're now seeing more of is obviously lifelong learning. So making sure that learning happens in the flow of our life. We go to ourselves half an hour or a fortnight, okay, I might do a little something here to increase my knowledge in a topic. Peer-to-peer learning. So again, mentors are becoming more and more popular in organisations. So people willing to volunteer their time to a range of people inside the organisations, and giving others opportunity. Weapons of mass instruction, which is all that cohort-based learning I've been talking of. Obviously, personalised learning with AI. AI is the big buzzy word at the moment. It's good for now until the robots get smarter than us. Let's not let the robots get smarter than us. But you know, it's good at recommending things that you should do based on other things that you've done in the past. Obviously, anytime, anywhere classes are great things to have. And then the reskilling revolution. So, you know, getting people from, as we call it, from the coal miner to the coder. So if you're a coal miner now, what are the skills, the natural progression that you might need to reskill to become a software developer? And a lot of that relates around skills. If you're in the APAC region, there's a really good government initiative called myskills.gov.au. It is available globally. It's just a normal website. But if you're out to set out a skills framework for your organisation, it's a good place to start. So this allows organisations or individuals within organisations to do a couple of things. So for individuals, it allows them to see the types of skills that exist for different roles inside their organisation and map their learning to those skills to give them more opportunities. On the flip side of that, for HR managers or for leaders or managers, senior managers inside organisations, it allows them to see the types of skills that exist within their people within those organisations. So you can really get a good idea as to the knowledge landscape and makeup within inside your organisations. Finally, what can Open LMS do with all this? Well, we do a lot of this in our day-to-day. So, we're experienced in helping you set up cohort-based learning initiatives. We can help you with pre-employment learning. And this is actually a big one that a lot of organisations miss out on. And that's finding out as much about their learners' learning preferences and the like before they actually start, so they can be put into the right cohorts to help out with their learning. Obviously, online inductions, interactive assessments, helping you set up your skills progression matrix and the like. And of course, creation of digital content across the board too. Obviously, we can help you with a lot of these services. We've got a very big, expansive team of about 150 people in various continents and regions across the world. So we can facilitate and help you with these digital workshops. We can help you choose the right collaboration platforms and also assist you with the design and development and maintenance of your digital content as well too. So please feel free to reach out anytime you might want some help with that. But most of all, thank you for giving me some of your valuable time today. I know it's one of those things. It's hard to sort of wedge these opportunities into your day. So in a perfect world, I'd be looking at all your faces, smiling, nodding, scratching your head, and we'd be able to explore more. Hopefully, we're not too far away from that. But again, thanks for your time today, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Dean, for a really engaging and excellent presentation. And maybe one day, Dean, physical conferences will be back and you will be there. But for the audience, for now, just a quick reminder, you can see that Q&A widget there on your screen. Feel free to drop any questions that you've got, hit submit. We're going to begin Q&A. So first of all, Dean, how has digital learning evolved during COVID, do you think?
Yeah, look, quite substantially. And for the most part, for the reason being, people weren't ready for it. I mean, that might be with learning management systems, for example. With a lot of organisations, the system was parked on the side. It was that system over there that just looks after compliance training and the like. And as far as being a collaborative tool, the collaboration features weren't perhaps used inside organisations as much as we would have liked to have seen. Now, though, we found an incredible growth in the use of the learning management system. So it's now become almost like a social platform of sorts, where people collaborate on answers and questions, where people are submitting videos and the like to their staff on teaching them and bringing them up to speed. So yeah, the utilisation has gone through the roof, and certainly people creating digital content as well too has been. There's been an incredible increase there as well too, as people try and use this as one of their tools to keep people together.
And I think just touching on that as well, it's what can we do to ensure that's sustainable? So I think looking at that strategy longer term as well. Just want to touch on another question here. How's business responded to the skill shortage? I mean, that's just a completely different great question, but I want to understand what your thoughts are on this. It seems to be a huge hot topic at the moment.
Yeah, look, it's changed in a number of ways, but probably most importantly, we're seeing a big connect, if you like, between higher education and the workforce. Now, previously, it was the role of higher education to prepare people for work. You'd go along, you'd get a degree, you'd learn all the things that were expected of a person doing a Bachelor of Economics, and that bachelor would go either to a graduate program or out into the workforce and start applying for jobs. Here's my CV, I've done my degree, here I go. Now, though, the demand for different types of skills and for the amount of people with those skills in the employer base has grown incredibly high, and they need people now. So they don't have 4 years to wait for a learner to get a degree. That need that either immediately or in a matter of months. So we're seeing much stronger ties between industry and higher education to make that happen. And that's great, I think. I think it's really, really good for education. And education are pivoting as well too. So they're looking at things similar to Udemy that I mentioned before with nano degrees. So smaller bites of education which can really assist with getting a workforce ready really, really quickly. Which is exciting to see, yeah.
I would agree with you here. Looking at that transition from education into that career path is major, especially working with the likes of the younger learners in schools. Now, I just want to touch on Open LMS as a product, and I want to understand everything you've mentioned here today. Does Open LMS do all of the things that you have mentioned?
I'd have to hang my head in shame if I said no, wouldn't I? Especially being a product manager. Yeah. Well, suffice to say, yes. Yeah, we do. I mean, these are problems that honestly, we were working on these problems before COVID. We follow what the World Economic Forum's doing. We follow what employers are doing. We follow what learners are wanting to see out of useful skills development in the workforce. So all COVID really did was accelerate the need for that. So we're really sort of thankful and in a very good position to be able to say, right, okay, these are the problems we now have. Hey, guess what? All those things we've been studying for the last couple of years and putting into practice and running experiential labs on are now needed. Quick, let's get this done. Let's help these organisations out. And we were able to respond really, really quickly. So that was great. And saying that, we've also learnt to refine some of our products to provide these things as well too. So that's in seeing, things that you might make in a quicker time frame be utilised quickly, and then have to refine and iterate changes to product as well to accommodate that need as well too. But it's been an interesting time and a great learning experience for everybody, I think, and a great thing to be a part of. So suffice to say, yes, all of the things that we've spoken about today, our organisation as a whole is very capable and competent at delivering.
And Dean, just before we close out today's session, I think what I'm beginning to understand from market research is putting the employee experience and, say, as an employee, wanting that developmental pathway, so to speak, being so important to, say, my development or another's development. What would you say is a key takeaway for organisations that you would like them to go away with today?
Look at skills. It's really important. One of the things that our tools do, for example, is allow you to track which roles exist inside your organisation and which skills are attached to those roles. And when we talk of being meaningful education, that's meaningful to an employee. Quite often when we do new hires, for example, whether you're a small business or whether you're a multinational, you might put a job ad out to your people, out to the organisation and say, hey, we've got a new role for a systems analyst. It's currently advertised on Seek. You're encouraged to apply for it. But wouldn't it be good to know who has those skills inside the organisation? So I could simply type into my system business analyst, who he has skills of a business analyst. Jody from accounting. I didn't know Jody from accounting had 80% of the skills needed for a system analyst. What's she currently working on? Can we second her to this role? Would she be interested in applying for this role? So it really is both ends of the tail. So employees can see a whole hierarchy of roles that exist inside the organisation, where their skills gap is, where it exists, what pieces of course or content can fill those gaps. And then the flip side for the organisation is I can see all of those things that exist in a single landscape. So certainly skills development for a retention strategy for your employees and from a development strategy. And again, all of these things should really tie into not just your learning strategy, but the overarching organisational strategy as well too, which allows us to become more successful and more entrepreneurial organisations too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's a really sound piece of advice, especially as we're becoming more innovative going forward. So for now, before we just close out this session, a quick reminder, you'll see all of those resources there on the right-hand side of your screen. You can download that content along with Dean's slide deck for future use, so do take advantage of that. And you're going to be able to watch Dean's session on playback for up to a month after the event. You'll receive an email with a URL. So Dean, without further ado, thank you very much for joining us here today. It's been a pleasure. as always, welcoming you to the floor. And just a
No,
reminder
thank you
to
for
the
having me.
audience, connect with Dean on LinkedIn, carry the conversation on. But join me, 15 minutes time, we're going live again, focusing on the real cost of losing your talent and what to do about it. You'll see a call to action button. Click that. It will take you straight through. Equally, you will receive an email. Click that URL and I'll meet you there in about 15 minutes time. But from me and Dean, thank you very much, and for Open LMS for joining us here today.
Thanks so much, everyone. Hope to see you soon.
Bye, Dean. Bye, bye, bye.